All right, let's talk about finance. But today, we're not just going to get bogged down in profits and losses. Nope, we're going deeper into something that's way more fundamental: integrity, ethics, and the one thing the whole system is built on: trust.
And that's a really fair question, right? I mean, this is an industry that manages our money, our futures. Trust should be everything. But for a lot of people, it just feels broken. So what happened? How did that confidence get so eroded?
This lack of trust isn't just some vague feeling people have. It's actually rooted in some pretty major events. We all remember the 2007-08 global financial crisis. That was a massive shock to the system. But honestly, it's more than just that one event. It's been a pattern. Widespread mis-selling scandals, financial advice that seems to be more about the commission than what's best for the client, and then all these big inquiries that uncover serious misconduct. When you add it all up, it's really no surprise that a lot of folks are feeling, well, somewhere between suspicious and downright cynical.
Okay, so if trust is broken, the big question is, how does an entire industry even start to fix that? Well, it begins by building a really solid framework from the ground up. You need a foundation for integrity that everyone can actually see and, more importantly, rely on.
And look, that's the real challenge here. When confidence is just shattered, you can't just say, hey, trust us again. It doesn't work like that. You have to earn it back step by step by actually showing you're trustworthy. And for that, you need a clear, actionable plan, kind of like a roadmap back to integrity.
So this is where something like a formal code of conduct becomes so important. But here's the thing you got to get. It's not just a big, boring rule book listing all the things you can't do. It's actually meant to be a positive framework. It's all about laying out the core principles that guide professionals to do the right things and for the right reasons. It gives everyone a benchmark for what high professional standards really look like.
Okay, so what does this guide, this ethical framework, actually look like in practice? Well, it basically rests on a few key pillars. You can think of these as the main supports holding up the entire structure of ethical behavior in the financial world.
And thinking of it as a blueprint is actually a really great analogy, right? A blueprint doesn't swing the hammer and build the house for you, but it gives you the essential plan to follow so you don't mess it up. It's the exact same idea here. These principles are the guide for making good, solid, ethical choices, especially in those tricky situations where the right path forward isn't so clear.
All right, so here they are, the 8 core principles that make up this ethical blueprint. Let's kind of walk through them. First up, you've got personal accountability. This is just the basic commitment to always act with integrity, skill, and care. Next, and this one is huge, is client focus. This is all about putting the client's interests first, period. It's the direct answer to those commission bias problems we talked about. Then, there's how to handle conflicts of interest. The idea isn't to pretend they don't exist, but to manage them openly and fairly. Respect for the market is about the bigger picture, keeping the whole system healthy and stable. Then we've got 2 that are all about growth. Professional development, which is a promise to never stop learning, and being aware of your capabilities, which just means you don't give advice on things you're not an expert in. And finally, you have the cultural cornerstones: respecting others, and creating a place where people can actually speak up and listen up when they see something wrong. Put them all together, and you've got a really comprehensive guide for building a financial world we can all trust.
Okay, this all sounds great for the industry as a whole, right? But at the end of the day, ethics really boils down to the choices individual people make every single day. So how do you actually apply this stuff in a practical way? Well, let's check out a kind of personal ethics test.
Because let's be real, decisions in the real world are rarely simple black and white choices. So often we're stuck in these gray areas where the right thing to do isn't super obvious. And that's exactly when having a simple, practical tool can be an absolute lifesaver to help guide your thinking.
And here it is. It's a super simple but incredibly powerful checklist. It really just comes down to asking yourself 4 questions. 1. Honest. Have I been totally truthful with everyone involved? 2. Open. Does everyone who's affected understand the consequences? 3. Transparent. Have I been clear and not misleading to anyone? And number 4. Fair. Is my decision going to unknowingly put someone at a disadvantage? If you can look at a situation and confidently say yes to all 4 of those, you're pretty much standing on solid ethical ground.
Okay, beyond that checklist, there's one last kind of gut check test you can do. You might have heard it called the front page test. Just ask yourself this: would I be happy if what I'm about to do was on the front page of the news tomorrow? Or maybe even more personally, would I be happy explaining this decision to my family or my closest friends? If the answer is a solid, confident yes, you've probably made the right call.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. These big, industry-wide codes of conduct, they're absolutely essential for setting the standard and starting to rebuild trust. But they only work if individuals, real people, actually choose to live by them. So, while a code can give you the compass, true integrity, the kind that can actually rebuild an entire industry, that really starts with the little choices each one of us makes every single day. So what do you think?